All right, so if you are tuning in, let me just go ahead and say that you and I are on the same page. You are listening to Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast, and I am your host, Aaron McGee. You know, one of the best things that I like about podcasting is that you get to hide behind the microphone and you can stuff your face like while the work is going on. So I just want to share the fact that I just had one of my favorite desserts in the city of Nashville, which was a sweet potato cupcake. Yes, a sweet potato cupcake from my favorite cupcake shop, the Cupcake Collection. No, this is not a paid sponsorship. Listen, I would take her dollars, but she doesn't even have to pay me to promote the Cupcake Collection. It's one of my favorite spots, and I would promote it anyway. Before I get off this cupcake tip, let me just say that, you know, how some people are foodies, but I'm more of a desserty. I don't even know if that's a thing, but if it was a thing, then I would be a desserty. All right, so let's jump into this. I have a fun interview that you are about to check out in 1 second. It is with my guy, Casey Palmer. Casey and I sat down in the hotel lobby. You're going to see that's a recurring theme for a couple of these interviews. But Casey and I sat down in the hotel lobby. Casey Palmer is a blogger or dad blogger, but you'll hear us discuss that in this episode. Casey Palmer is a blogger straight out of Canada. You can find Casey at caseypalmer.com. This interview was a lot of fun. Casey and I talked about the 3-spoon parenting system. You want to stay tuned for that. We talked about his partnerships with companies as a blogger. Casey is the plug. And we talked a lot about work-life balance. In this episode, we also got to discuss, are we pregnant or are we expecting? So you already know that this is going to be an interesting conversation. So without further ado, let's jump right into the interview with Casey Palmer. What's up, Casey?
How's it going, man?
From Toronto. Man, what's life like in Canada?
Life's different in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to figure out what it all looks like, what the differences between Canada and America in the days I've been here. And it's not huge. Like, it's different in little things. Like, overall, Canada and America are very similar, but there's little things that are different. Like, we don't really have a huge military.
Yeah.
I think.
So who fights for you all?
Well, we have a military. Like it's 100,000 people with our reserves and everything. I think you guys are like what, 1.5 million, 2 million, some huge number of people. And you have ads and everything and recruitment drives, and we're kind of like, we wear we wear uniforms and stuff, and we can do stuff. But yeah, it's not really something that we're driven to move toward. And there's a lot of other things I noticed that, going around, just kind of there's off the huge drive for football. Football's a huge thing down here. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves it. We have the Canadian Football League, not something we really talk about. And it's just very different. It's very different in how we approach things. And also being from Toronto, we're not like the rest of Canada, which is a good and a bad thing, and that we are much more like the States than the rest of Canada is. And because of that, the rest of Canada does not like Toronto. So we just... when Drake is all about, like, he's got enemies, he's got a lot of enemies, he's probably telling the rest of our country. It's bad. It's ridiculous.
I thought he was talking about folks in Memphis, man.
You wish. No, man. He's talking about everyone else. Everyone else north of the border.
Yeah. Okay, well, real quick, I said Toronto. How do you pronounce it?
Toronto. So it's like a Turonno.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we jumped in talking about being from Canada and everything, but I guess I kind of wanted to just set the tone, because that may be the backdrop of some of the things we discussed in terms of comparing notes. But I mean, let's take a step back and let our listeners know what's going on here. Casey, you are a blogger. Yep. Would you consider yourself a dad blogger?
Kinda. People consider me a dad blogger. Let's put it that way. People think of me as one.
So tell me about your family, your family makeup, your kids. Do you have kids, a child? What's the deal?
Sure. So my wife Sarah and I, we've been married for about 7 years. We have 2 kids who are 4 and 2 boys, and we're just trying to raise them right. They're mixed. She's from a Dutch background, so we're just trying to build a world where they'll feel comfortable in their skin, be able to find their way through life. And that's why we're in Toronto, partly because we grew up in Toronto, and also because it's probably one of the most culturally diverse cities in the world. So they have a better chance of being able to figure out who they want to be than if I was in somewhere else that was far more skewed in any direction.
Man, that's so good. I don't want to cheat the listeners and go back and ask you about this whole dad blogger thing. But let me say this. Are people assuming that you're a dad blogger because you're in the space of season in your life where like your two boys are of high priority and you're talking about them on your blog?
100%. Okay. I just kind of get, I won't call it boxed in. I don't let people box me into a label or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I do recognize that fatherhood takes up a lot of my mental space. Yeah. Not even my time, just my thinking. I'll be anywhere doing whatever, and I'll still be thinking about my boys because they are the driver for a lot of things I do in my life. Okay. So, by default, I guess I become a dad blogger because everything I do has the undertone of being a father and doing that.
Got it. Okay. I need you to educate me on a couple of things.
Sure.
And so, excuse my ignorance in advance. So, you are from Canada.
Yes.
And you say your wife has a Dutch background.
Yes.
But you both are from Toronto.
Yes.
So, I'm a black male in America. And so, like, you know, we're considered African American. So, like, is there... I don't know. Are you just a black Canadian?
Black Canadian is probably the best way to call it. So what happens, the big difference between... and
I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. The big difference between how different ethnicities are viewed in America versus Canada is that in America, it's the melting pot versus the mosaic. Mm-hmm. So in America, everyone's American. Mm-hmm. You come here, you're American. There's a lot of patriotism, and you all are under the flag, and it's cool. In Canada, what we do is you come over and you are Canadian by nationality, but you still retain everything that you came from before. So in Toronto, we have representation from like 140 plus countries, but everyone still gets to, like, they still celebrate whatever it is that made them who they were from before. So we have like an Ethiopian community, we have a Sri Lankan community, we have a Nigerian community, Dutch. You have an Australian, Dutch. Yeah. Everyone has their own routines, habits, and cultural significances that they still keep. Yeah. We just all live in the same place and make it work, and everyone can kind of hop in and out of everyone else's celebrations because of it. So it's a really interesting, play as everyone tries to figure out, what things they like doing, who they like hanging with, and all that sort of stuff.
No, that was good, and I wanted you to, because you really set this up, and I kind of took your lead with it because you gave us the backdrop for your family and your two boys, and so I kind of wanted to know like how much of everything that you explained, this mosaic approach mm-hmm. or culture, how does that impact how you father, particularly because you say you're in Toronto because of this rich diversity. Yes. So I'm assuming you want your boys to be able to experience all type of people, different backgrounds, walks of life. In addition to that, like, how does it impact your fathering on a personal or intimate level, like within the home?
Okay. Well, on one hand, it definitely impacts my fathering. I'm from a Jamaican background, so my parents both immigrated to Canada from Jamaica back in the 70s. So if you know anything about Jamaican parenting, they're like super strict. Like, we take the entire African-American approach to parenting, and it's pretty much the same thing. It's just that they got really creative with what they'd hit you with if you're in trouble.
Give us some examples.
It's like, well, I always call it the 3-spoon system.
Oh.
So if you were like a little bad, you get like the wooden spoon, which was like, it's hard. It'll hit you, but you won't hurt too much. Yeah. If you're really bad, then you get the plastic spoon, which is more aerodynamic, so it cuts through air and it gets you. Mm-hmm. If you're like horrible, you did something unforgivable.
Don't say metal. Oh my goodness, man! I knew you was going to the metal. Done. That is horrible. Yeah.
Right? And
God bless your parents.
You know what? It set all of us straight. It got all my two younger brothers and I are all in good places doing our thing because we had a lot of discipline, and it's definitely molded a lot of my perspectives and ideals for how I raise my kids. I'm tough on both of them, and people would say maybe unreasonably so because he's only 4, he's only 2. I'm like, yeah, but he'll eventually be 14 and he'll eventually be 12, and if I don't set the expectation from now, then they're not going to know what it is I'm looking for out of their behavior when they're older. Yeah. So from that standpoint, like, there's a lot of Caribbean influence in how I parent my kids other than the spoon system. There's children's services. I can't go like
Hold on.
beating my kids.
Hold on. So, are you currently using spoons?
No. The spoons are used to cook food. I can't use them on my boys' behinds. That's not happening.
Yeah,
it's not an option.
It's 2018, and that would not be favorable on your blog.
Right.
So on your blog, are you more of a And first of all, tell us where we can go. Like, what's the name of the website?
It's under CaseyPalmer.com. Casey Palmer, Canadian Dad. Search either. If you search Casey Palmer in general, you'll find two of us. There's like a UK footballer who plays a lot of soccer, and good for him. And then there's me. So I'll turn up pretty easily.
Okay. So what's your format? Are you more of a is it written? Is it blog? Is it vlog? I bet you do more video because I still have to check it out.
I wish I did more video. All my YouTube friends are like, Casey, why aren't you doing video?
So what do you do? Because you have like all of the equipment.
I have mad gear for audio and video, but I do all writing. Oh. Yeah, figure that out. It doesn't make any sense. Oh man, that's make any sense.
Okay, we're gonna talk more. All right, so let's get back into it. So just tell me a little bit about your boys. Like, what are they into at 2 and 4?
Okay, the older one is. So I've kind of started figuring out their personalities. The older one likes working with his hands. So you give him some tools, you give him some Play-Doh, you give him Lego, and he'll go to town and just go at it. Because there's so few dad bloggers in Canada, we have lots of partnerships with different companies. So I get a lot of VTech toys, Lego, Star Wars, other things. And so they get a lot of things they can kind of mess around with. And he has like a learning desk right now from VTech where he can kind of go press all the letters and everything and body parts.
VTech, they just ship that over to you?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk after this. Yeah.
So they hook me up with a lot of stuff. Christmas was good to the fam. And so he likes playing with his hands while the little one's more artistic. And so he has a little drum set that lights up and everything. And he wants to do what daddy does. So I have a background in everything from writing to sketching to coding. So I'm always on the computer or I'm drawing something or I'm painting or whatever. And he's always trying to just like do what I do. So he'll come over and he'll want to like paint his own picture or draw his own thing and everything. So they're two very different boys. Yeah. And I'm trying my best to understand them and play to their strengths so that as they get older, they know I support them in whatever it is they're interested in. Yeah,
that's powerful. I want to know how has your two boys really shaped your character? Because I know you were one man prior to them getting here.
Yep.
And, let's talk about who you are now and how your boys have attributed to that.
I'm a lot more intentional about, it's kind of a weird mix. I'm intentional about being in the moment so I can enjoy life with them and be able to make those memories, but I'm also intentional about capturing the moment. So on my Facebook, for instance, a lot of the friend posts I put up there are little snippets of funny things they say because they're clowns, both of them. And I'm trying to capture it all so that when they're older, like, we're kind of the last generation right now who didn't really have a lot of photos or whatnot when they were growing up. You kind of have maybe like 10, 20 photos of like pivotal moments, birthdays or trips or whatever. Now I think on average, each kid has 1,500 photos per year.
Wow.
There's photos, there's videos, there's audio files. There's so much media that I'm just putting onto a hard drive for each kid so that when they're older and they have to do any school projects or they want to look back on who they were when they were younger, I'd be like, psh, I got your hard drive for that reason. Go look.
Yeah.
Categorized by year. Go do your thing. Leave me alone.
And you're better than most parents because most parents are going to say, "Well, go to my Facebook page."
Yeah. No, man, I have it all filed away
on a hard drive.
Things.
Clearly, yeah.
So when they're ready, like it's physical media. So as things upgrade and we change to new formats and stuff, I'll just switch it over to whatever, get a cord and like transfer it over. But I'm trying my best to make sure I can give them tangible looks at their entire lives so that by the time they're old enough to have their own cameras and do their own thing, then it's like, okay, you take over now. Like, I'm good. You have everything I need to give you to this point. You're good. Go ahead. And yeah, that takes up a lot of my thinking now because I want to make sure that everything I put out there is in service to them. Like, I want to make sure that it honors them. But at the same time, I want to make sure that, I'm not so obsessed and focused on that I'm not actually living with them as we grow up. Yeah. So it's kind of, I'm always balancing those two things out of my head.
Yeah. So, okay. I was going to ask you about work-life balance, but you kind of alluded to enough where I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's
It's
take
kind of a separate topic. I can talk 2 seconds about that if you want.
go for it.
All right. Work is my third priority.
Wow. Okay.
Family's first.
Okay.
Self is second.
Awesome.
And work is third. So family is the most important. I will drop anything for anyone in my family to make sure that they're taken care of and that they're good. But if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of my family. So I always make sure that I'm doing what I need to do when it comes down to my projects, and that I'm getting things out so I feel satisfied what's going on in my life. And then work, the job I do is pretty flexible, that I can do it from anywhere. I will work late in the night. I'll work on, odd weekend times here and there if I have to make things work. Mm-hmm. But I'm always shifting around schedules with what's going on with everyone else and myself so that it all just works. It's a very precarious juggling act, but you make it happen, man.
Okay. Well, I want to just stay on this for one more second.
Sure.
And ask you specifically about your fatherhood in particular, and that is, what do you wish you would have known before you became a father?
I think the viewpoint I had about fatherhood from before I became a father was that it was an ending, and that and when my wife was pregnant with our first.
No, you can say we.
Yeah.
You can say we could. Yeah.
I'm not technically pregnant.
No. But this is debatable because my
Okay.
wife and I think, especially as a married man,
chop it up.
especially as a married man, you want to take on full responsibility of what's about to happen. So when
That's
my
true.
wife became pregnant and she was bearing the child, I told everyone that we were pregnant.
Sure.
And my wife would, I know you're going to listen to this, and it's the truth, so I can say it. But, she would say, we're not pregnant, I'm pregnant.
I've heard that line a few times.
But I wanted to say that we were pregnant to honor the fact that as your husband, we're in this together.
Okay, that's fair.
And so, yes, it's obvious to everybody that as a man, I'm not pregnant.
I like to say it as this, though. She's pregnant, we're expecting.
We're expecting.
So I always see it as that. So it's like the pregnancy is the actual physical condition of having that baby inside you, getting ready for all that. But we're expecting that. That means as a father, you're preparing for this. You're getting ready. You're doing everything you need to do as an expecting dad to make sure you're ready when things happen. And that's what I've tried to distinguish between the two, because we can't get pregnant when it comes down to the physical stuff, but you can do everything in your power to make sure that you're ready for that child.
Okay.
So that's how I see it.
Okay, you just put me up on game. I will receive that, and I accept that, and I can say that moving forward because we're not pregnant, we're expecting. So,
but now I'm gonna tell your wife though. Yeah, that's a caveat though. You have to take that with a grain of salt, because I'm also the guy who says, she's eating for 2, I'm drinking for 3. And I'm just saying. Like, my advice is good, but at the same time, maybe we need to slow down sometimes.
No. I'll throw out what I don't need, but I know I can walk away with that. But we'll get back to it. So we're talking about what you wish you would have known before you became a father.
It's not an ending; it's a new beginning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good things happened out of us having kids. We were going to. So my wife grew up in the Christian Reformed Church. Mm-hmm. It's like a Dutch-focused area of Christianity. And we moved over to a Baptist church when she started dating me, and that was over downtown Toronto. And then as the kid was coming, we had our first son, and we kept going there, but it was just got so hard to keep getting him to church, and we wanted to make sure we maintained our spiritual connection and we're going on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So what happened is that we just found a more local church where we could walk there in 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Instead of having to pack them up in the car, drive them across town. And when there's snow on the ground, that is horrible. And we found a church that is really big on kids. They have a huge children's program. We probably have out of our church of probably 150. There's probably good 30, 40 kids there.
Wow.
There's a huge church thing. We teach Sunday school a month at a time, every 3 months or so, mm-hmm. to the preschool and kindergarten kids. But it's got us more connected with spiritually. It's got us more connected with other families, who are maybe, some of them are like-minded in similar places, and some are families of need who maybe need someone to just watch their back or be able to put their kids on the right path, or maybe just looking for a church to go to, for example. We've been so much more immersed in our community because of our kids, and has made us into stronger adults and gave us more in common with each other, as a married couple. Than before, it's just, we could be like ships crossing in the night for 3 days at a time, where it's like she has things going on in her social life, I have things going on in my social life, and we're married, but at the same time, like, we had these separate lives because we didn't really have a common thread in the same way. And now with a common purpose, it's really helping us to better identify what it is we're trying to build for the entire family unit and not just for ourselves. Yeah. So it's been a new beginning as a man, and I think, it's one of those things that a lot of guys in the modern world fear, having a child and all this responsibility and all that kind of things. A lot of what I try to put together when I'm putting together content for the blog is nothing to fear. It actually enriches your life, and you bring your child into your world and you work with them in order to build something that works for everybody, rather than just being, oh, now I can't do this, now I can't do that.
Yeah, so I wrote a blog post on Fatherhood is Dope just about a father's independence and just like, having the guts to continue the day-to-day living that you are already doing with your baby, either on your side, on your back, or in the car seat. Yeah. So I want to give you the opportunity to just tell us a little bit more about what we can expect when we go to your site, even whether it's from the fatherhood perspective or anything else that you feature on the site.
Sure. My site focuses on 4 areas of family. So, there's general family stuff, tech, travel, and food are kind of my 4 things where I focus. And it's a mix. Like, we don't really have, because there's so few dad bloggers up in Canada, we don't have time to put ourselves in certain niches. Like, this is the only thing I do, yada, yada. We all are a huge mix of whatever. So I'll be talking about, I have a partnership with Hamilton Beach right now. So they send over some stuff for me to cook with. So I write about that one day. I'll write about, the worst day I had as a father, when I feel like I fail my kids sometimes. And then I'll switch over to talking about some new tech things that the boys are playing with, to trips we take and things like that. It's kind of all growing with the family as we go. My ultimate goal with it right now is actually to grow to a point where I could turn into a family blog and my boys can have their own space and have our own family site and everything, where you can see things from the perspectives of all 3 of us. My wife doesn't want to be on camera, so I'm like, all right, cool. I respect it. But with the boys, if they're game for it, I want them to be able to grow into it and kind of find their own voice and how to express themselves as well. So it's really just a growing, it's like you're growing with my family as you read more and more of the content that's coming out.
What type of timeline do you see that having? Because, is it safe to say you're an avid writer?
Yeah.
Yeah. How early or how soon can you train up your children to be on the blog featured too?
I'm thinking 3-4 years.
3, yeah.
But I don't expect them to write. I expect them to record audio. I expect them to be in front of the camera if that's what they want to do. To be honest, they actually already have their own camera from Fuji. They gave them this point-and-shoot camera. Oh, my
God. This man is the plug.
Yeah.
So Christmas was pretty good.
Yeah. Fuji sent us, they have a camera that's, I think it's the XP120. And it's waterproof, drop-proof, freeze-proof, shatter. It's like supposed to be a tank of a camera. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll test it on my kids and see what's up. And 98% of the time, they just take horrible photos and video. It's just I'm like, this is
of course of the back of they're taking pictures of the back of their thumbs.
Every now and then they come up with something that's just you would never have thought of it, because you're seeing it from a kid's perspective, and it could be we're talking or taking care of something or packing something for camping, and they take a picture looking up at us as we're on top of the car packing the trailer and everything, and they're just kind of I'm like, wow, that's a really good picture, and I put them in, give them their credit and everything, and I'm trying to build it all up. So I'm just as they put more in and as they do more content that is deserving of, let's say, compensation, I'm all right, here's your pay for that photo and stuff like that. And I want them to have ownership over their creativity and their craft, so that they know that they're worth something, or that they should be compensated for their efforts when it comes down to certain things. Yeah. I guess I'm trying to just build them into small business people.
That's powerful. That's powerful. That's the way of the future. You've mentioned it a couple of times in our conversation about, there are a few dad bloggers in Canada. Canada is a really, really, really big place. So when you talk about there's few dad bloggers, I take you at your word for that. But recently I've been reading this book by this author by the name of Stephen Mansfield. Okay. And he's been talking about a band of brothers and why men need other men to hold them accountable, for real, to call them out, to speak into their lives, to ask them about those things that we don't always like to discuss within our marriage or our fatherhood or career. But I've been inclined to take that same concept of band of brothers and apply it to the blogger industry, because I know a lot of us are keeping up with one another through social media and through our sites. And so because I've heard you mention it so many times, I'm inclined to just ask you about like what you consider it that you all have a band of brothers in this blog space in Canada, and can you speak to that?
At a very small scale, I think that the number of dads we have actively producing content across Canada. So let's contextualize this. Canada is the second or third largest landmass politically in the world. We have a population of about 36 million people. Across that, there's probably at most 10 people putting together content for dads on a regular basis.
Say that again.
10. 10 at most. We have, like, there's people who identify as dad bloggers, but they don't really put out content on a regular basis. There's 10 of us. There's like, and 5 of them are here.
Wow.
So, the ones who are putting stuff together on a regular basis, we interact with each other all the time. We can be like, one of us will drop a line in a Facebook chat, be like, yo, I'm doing this. If you can, like, support, let us know what's going on. Like, just big it up. I'm like, yeah, cool, no problem. But it's so few of us that, and there's so many opportunities to do so many things that we're all kind of just like figuring ourselves out in our own individual spaces. And we don't feel the pressure to become, to just be like a certain kind of blogger because of it. We're all just ourselves. That said, it does help in order like that we have other dads across the country who understand us when it comes down to what we're trying to do and what we're trying to portray. In our own individual neighborhoods, we have varying degrees of success when it comes to finding other dads who want to hang out and discuss what's going on, things like that. But I find that a lot of dads I have around me are still holding back. They're still held back by these older perceptions of what a dad's supposed to be and how it's supposed to work. And we're not yet at the point of, I guess, emotional vulnerability where we're talking about real stuff that's really affecting us. And
why is that important? I know why. I just want.
I think it's key, man. Yeah. I think it's key to the growth as a father, to dealing and eventually vanquishing one's demons. If you're not putting voice to them, if you're not trusting and confiding in others to help you on that fight, to take care of the things that are weighing down your mind, weighing down your soul, they'll continue to have a hold on you. You're not going to get in a position where you're going to be able to work past it and move on, right? So I'm trying to work with other dads to get to a point where they're cool with learning how to, put words to that and put voice to the things that weigh them down, and just taking time.
Yeah, it's an emotional vulnerability, and I think one way we can debunk that fear is to let folks know that it's actually, let dads know, let men know that it's actually strength.
Yeah,
and emotional
big
vulnerability
time.
And being courageous enough to take complete ownership of your role as a father. And I don't know, I just think that's amazing. It leads me back to this definition of authentic manhood that it's this series called 33, the series, A Journey to Authentic Manhood. And they have a biblical definition of manhood that says men lead courageously, men accept responsibility, men reject passivity, and men invest eternally.
Wow.
And it just, I feel like, whether you are a believer, a non-believer, whatever you fall on this spectrum of faith and religion, I think that as a man and as a father, it's a definition that we all can adapt.
I think so.
And I think, on this platform a lot, I talk about like the call to fatherhood, like accepting the call to fatherhood, because I do believe it's a calling, but the calling looks so different for all of us.
Yes.
All of us are not called to this blog space. You may be an engineer or a musician, and through your artistry is how you show your passion, your commitment towards fatherhood. So I don't know. I'm going to end this by, I just, Casey, what can we expect from you, in the coming months? What does Casey Palmer have going on?
Well, I have 2 answers to that. Right now, I'm in the middle of a Black History Month project. I've tried to put together a series on Black Canadians only because we don't really talk about it as much up north. So I try to feature themes and stories that help people within Canada to better understand what the Black Canadian experience is all about. Yeah. So that's my February is always crazy for me. I'm kind of waiting for March 1st, but at the same time, I'm like working my butt off right now. But in the future, Coming to Dad 2.0 has actually given me a lot of ideas about things I need to do better as a blogger. Over the last 7 years, I've probably written over 1,000 pieces of content.
Wow.
Over the last 15, I've written over 2,500. And it's all at a point where it's like, it's all there and it's all good and well and on the internet, but it's not optimized. It's not in a place where people know it's there, right? It's not put together in a way that I'm investing in self and resharing things that are like, here, you can look at these stories over the past 15 years of development to understand how I got to a point where it's like, I got from never really wanting kids when I was a lot younger to now I'm like, I can't imagine my life without them. And being able to come up with key points in the timeline that help to articulate that. So I think people are going to see a lot more out of me as I invest more in my own growth and history and be able to share that with others so that I have something more tangible to share there. And things are always growing. I'm always developing new ideas and working on new things, but I'm hoping to, work with my audience I have already to spread the word about new things that I'm looking to do to further bolster the relationship we have already and take on new people for the journey as we go. But I think there's going to be a shift in how I go about doing things just so that it's every action I take is a lot more meaningful, because one can write a blog post and one can put it out, one can share it to social, but it might be the world is always moving on when it comes to social media and they might lose that attention in the blink of an eye. I rather create things that have a lasting impact on people and help them, whether it helps one person, helps 100 people, whether it reshapes someone's, opinion of something. That's what I'm trying to do every time I hit go to bat at this point. I'm going to see if I can do that. Man,
we got to keep this conversation going because I'm really interested in hearing how that unfolds. I want to keep it. We can keep it going off the line. I hope you don't shift before we get that Fatherhood is Dope blog post out of you.
That sounds all right. I can commit to that.
Yeah, shameless plug. Hey man, I'm just figuring it all out. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing your vision. And so if you want to keep up with Casey, you can check him out at CaseyPalmer.com.
Yep.
That's right.
That's it.
So did anybody notice that I never really got Toronto right? I literally kept saying Toronto. All right, so I have work to do, but I told you that was going to be a fun interview. Casey, thank you so much, man, for sitting down and having this candid conversation with me. I told you when I get to Toronto or when you get to Nashville, the link up is inevitable. Sidebar, one of the things I didn't tell you is that if you're going to have the sweet potato cupcake, or if you're going to have 2 sweet potato cupcakes like I do, make sure you have a glass of water on standby. Okay? All right, I'm back off that. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Casey Palmer. You can find him at CaseyPalmer.com. You have been listening to Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. I am your host, Aaron McGee. Please join me for this season of Fatherhood is Dope. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to continue to sit down with dads and listen to their stories, whether they're bloggers, vloggers, or just everyday dads who have answered the call to fatherhood. Listen, it's all about celebrating fatherhood. Thank you. Subscribe wherever podcasts are available. Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. Yeah. All right. It's been real. Fatherhood is Dope, the podcast. Peace.